Hi everyone, welcome to another inspiring video where we explore a topic that can truly transform your life. Today we're talking about something close to my heart, how reading books change my life. Whether you're here to practice your English listening skills or to uncover the life-changing power of books, you're in for a treat. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the magical world of books. I'll be sharing my personal experiences, practical tips, and the endless lessons I've learned from the pages of stories and knowledge. This journey is not just about learning English. It's about discovering how books can unlock doors you never knew existed. When I think about my journey with books, I can't help but smile. It all began in a small room with a single shelf of books. At the time, I didn't realize that those books would shape who I am today. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the days when reading wasn't just a hobby, it was a lifeline. I wasn't a reader growing up. In fact, I thought books were boring. I would see my classmates reading novels and wonder, how could they sit still for so long? But everything changed one rainy afternoon. I was 16 and school had just ended. The rain was pouring outside, and I didn't want to walk home in the storm. So, I wandered into the library, just to kill time. I still remember the book I picked up that day. It wasn't a famous novel or a bestseller. It was a simple story about a boy who traveled the world. At first, I was just skimming through the pages, but then something clicked. The words started to pull me in. The more I read, the more I wanted to know what happened next. Before I knew it, I had read the entire book. That day, I discovered something magical about reading. A book wasn't just a collection of words, it was a portal to another world. It allowed me to escape my reality and live through the eyes of someone else. That one book sparked a fire in me, a fire that still burns to this day. Reading became a habit. I started borrowing books from the library every week. At first, I stuck to simple stories, fairy tales, adventure books, and short novels. I wasn't trying to improve my English back then, I was just having fun. But something incredible happened along the way. Without even realizing it, my English started to improve. I began noticing new words, phrases, and sentence structures. I didn't have to memorize grammar rules or vocabulary lists anymore. The stories were teaching me everything I needed to know. One day, I tried writing a short essay for school. To my surprise, the words flowed easily. I used expressions and vocabulary that I didn't even know I had learned. That's when I realized the power of reading. It wasn't just helping me learn English. It was shaping the way I thought and expressed myself. As I grew older, my taste in books evolved. I started reading biographies, self-help books, and novels that challenged my thinking. Each book taught me something new, about the world and about myself. Let me share one story that had a profound impact on me. It was a novel about a young girl who faced incredible hardships but never gave up on her dreams. Reading about her journey made me reflect on my own life. It taught me the value of resilience, hope, and determination. Books have a way of doing that. They don't just tell you a story, they make you feel it. They take you on an emotional journey, making you laugh, cry, and think deeply about life. Now, let's talk about how you can use reading to improve your English skills. First, start with books that match your level of English. Don't feel pressured to read complicated novels right away. Begin with graded readers or books written for English learners. These books are designed to help you build confidence and vocabulary step by step. Next, make reading a daily habit. Even if you can only spare 10 or 15 minutes a day, consistency is key. The more you read, the more natural the language will feel. One technique that worked wonders for me was reading aloud. When you read out loud, you practice pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency all at once. It might feel awkward at first, but it's one of the best ways to improve your speaking skills. Another tip is to use audiobooks. Listening to the narrator while following along in the text helps you understand pronunciation and intonation. It's like having a personal English coach guiding you through the book. And don't worry about understanding every single word. Focus on the overall meaning. If a word keeps appearing and you don't know what it means, that's when you can look it up. But don't let unfamiliar words stop you from enjoying the story. Books are more than just tools for learning. They're gateways to growth. They teach you about cultures, histories, and perspectives you might never encounter in your daily life. One of my favorite things about books is their ability to inspire. Whenever I feel stuck or unmotivated, I pick up a book. Reading about someone else's struggles and triumphs reminds me that I'm not alone. It gives me the strength to keep going, even when things get tough. Now, let me leave you with some final thoughts. If you're watching this video, you've already taken the first step toward improving your English. The fact that you're here means you're committed to learning and growing. Remember, learning a language is a journey, not a race. There will be days when you feel frustrated, but that's all part of the process. The important thing is to keep moving forward, one step at a time. And don't underestimate the power of books. They changed my life in ways I never imagined, and I believe they can do the same for you. So, here's my challenge for you. Pick up a book today. It doesn't matter if it's a novel, a biography, or a simple story. Just start reading and see where it takes you. Chapter 2. In this chapter, I shared my personal story, how a single book turned my world upside down and started me on a lifelong adventure with reading. Now, let's take this journey one step further. In this chapter, I'll share the deeper lessons I've learned, the strategies that helped me grow, and the ways books have influenced not just my language skills, but my entire outlook on life. Let me begin with a confession. There was a time when I felt stuck in life, like nothing I did was making a difference. I had big dreams, but I didn't know how to achieve them. That's when books became my saving grace. They gave me the knowledge, inspiration, and courage I needed to move forward. I remember one particular book that changed everything for me. It was a biography of a man who started with nothing, absolutely nothing, and built a life full of success and purpose. His story wasn't just inspiring, it was a roadmap. I took notes as I read, jotting down ideas and lessons I could apply to my own life. The book taught me the importance of setting clear goals. Before reading it, I had vague dreams but no real plan. After finishing the book, I sat down with a pen and paper and wrote out exactly what I wanted to achieve. That simple act of writing down my goals gave me clarity and direction. Books don't just give you knowledge, they give you confidence. When I first started learning English, I was terrified of making mistakes. I avoided speaking because I didn't want to embarrass myself. But reading changed that. As I read more, I began to understand how sentences were structured, how words fit together, and how ideas flowed naturally in English. One day, I decided to test my skills. I joined a conversation group for English learners. At first, I was nervous, but then I remembered something I had read in a book. Confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being prepared. I wasn't perfect, but I was prepared. I had read enough to hold a basic conversation, and that gave me the courage to speak up. From that moment on, I realized that books weren't just teaching me English, they were teaching me bravery. When you read a book for the first time, it feels like opening a gift. But when you read it again, you discover new layers of meaning. It's like visiting an old friend and realizing they have secrets you never knew about. There's one book I've read at least 5 times. It's a classic novel about human resilience and the power of hope. Every time I read it, I notice something new. The first time I focused on the plot. The second time I paid attention to the characters. The third time, I studied the language. Each reading taught me something different. And that's the beauty of books. They grow with you. If you're learning English, I highly recommend rereading your favorite books. The familiarity of the story makes it easier to focus on the language, and you'll be surprised by how much you pick up the second or even the third time around. Another incredible thing about books is their ability to connect us with others. Have you ever read a book and felt like the author was speaking directly to you? It's a powerful experience to realize that someone, somewhere, understands exactly what you're going through. Books create a sense of connection that transcends time and space. I once joined a book club, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Each month, we would read a different book and then come together to discuss it. What amazed me was how the same book could spark completely different reactions in different people. One person would say, "This book made me cry," while another would say, "It gave me hope." Through those discussions, I learned to see the world through other people's eyes. I realized that books aren't just about words on a page. They're about empathy, understanding, and shared humanity. Always carry a book with you. You never know when you'll have a spare moment to read, whether you're waiting in line, riding the bus, or relaxing at home. Set a reading goal. It doesn't have to be ambitious. Start small, maybe 1 book a month, and gradually increase your goal as you build the habit. Keep a reading journal. Write down your favorite quotes, thoughts, and reflections. It's a great way to remember what you've learned and revisit it later. Experiment with different genres. Don't limit yourself to one type of book. Explore fiction, nonfiction, poetry, biographies, and more. Each genre has something unique to offer. Read with intention. Before you start a book, ask yourself, what do I hope to gain from this? Whether it's entertainment, knowledge, or inspiration, having a purpose will make your reading experience more meaningful. Change starts with action. You can read all the books in the world, but nothing will change unless you apply what you've learned. If a book inspires you to dream big, take the first step toward your dream. If a book teaches you a new skill, practice it until it becomes second nature. Books are powerful, but they're only the beginning. The real magic happens when you take what you've learned and use it to create a better life for yourself and those around you. As we wrap up this chapter, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about the last book you read. What was the most important lesson it taught you? How can you apply that lesson in your life today? And if you haven't read a book recently, why not start now? Pick up a book that excites you, challenges you, or speaks to your heart. Dive into its pages and let it transform you. Chapter 3. If you've made it this far, you're someone who truly values the magic of books and the endless opportunities they bring. In the previous chapters, we've talked about how books have the power to change lives and connect us to new ideas. But there's still so much more to uncover. Let me take you back to a moment in my life, a moment when I felt completely stuck. It was a rainy afternoon, and I was sitting by my window, staring at a stack of books I had borrowed from the library. I remember feeling overwhelmed by the thought of starting yet another book. Would it actually help me? Or would it just add to the growing list of things I didn't fully understand? But then, something inside me shifted. I told myself, just open one. Read one page. And so I did. That one page led to another, and another. Before I knew it, hours had passed, and I was completely immersed in a story that felt more real than the rain outside my window. That day taught me an important lesson. Sometimes all it takes is one small step to create a ripple effect of change. Reading isn't just about absorbing information, it's about engaging with the world in a new way. Every book you read becomes a part of you, shaping your thoughts, your actions, and even your relationships. I began to notice how books were influencing the way I spoke, the way I wrote, and even the way I thought about myself. I started to believe in possibilities I hadn't considered before. One of the most transformative experiences I've had was reading a book about personal growth. The author shared stories of people who had faced unimaginable challenges, yet overcame them with resilience and determination. I remember closing that book and thinking, if they can do it, so can I. Books like that don't just inspire you, they ignite a fire within you. They remind you that no matter where you are in life, you have the power to change your story. That realization pushed me to take risks I never would have considered before. I joined new groups, started conversations with strangers, and even enrolled in a public speaking course. All because a book planted the seed of courage in my heart. Now let's talk about something equally important, the habit of reading. It's one thing to pick up a book every now and then, but it's another thing entirely to make reading a part of your daily routine. Developing this habit takes time and effort, but the rewards are immeasurable. I started small, just 10 minutes a day. I would read during my lunch break or before bed. Gradually, those 10 minutes turned into 20, then 30. The more I read, the more I craved the quiet moments when I could escape into another world. And here's the best part. Reading didn't just improve my English skills, it improved my ability to focus, to think critically, and to empathize with others. If you're struggling to make time for reading, let me share a tip that worked wonders for me. Treat reading like a reward. After completing a task or finishing a long day, give yourself the gift of diving into a book. It's a way to relax, recharge, and learn, all at the same time. Another thing that made a huge difference for me was reading aloud. I know it might feel awkward at first, but trust me, it's a game changer. When you read aloud, you're not just practicing your pronunciation and fluency, you're also training your brain to think in English. It's a powerful exercise that builds both confidence and skill. Speaking of confidence, let me share a moment that still makes me smile. I was at a cafe, reading a book in English, when someone approached me and asked, "What are you reading?" For the first time in my life, I didn't hesitate. I told them about the book, shared why I loved it, and even recommended another book they might enjoy. That conversation lasted only a few minutes, but it stayed with me. It was a reminder that every small effort adds up. The books I had read, the words I had learned, and the hours I had spent practicing, they all came together in that moment, and it felt amazing. As we near the end of this chapter, I want to leave you with a thought. Books are more than just stories. They're bridges to new worlds. They connect us to ideas, to people, and most importantly, to ourselves. Whether you're reading to improve your English, to escape into a fantasy world, or to learn something new, every book you read is an investment in your future. So here's my challenge for you. Pick up a book today. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. Choose something that excites you, something that speaks to your heart. And when you finish it, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned about the world, about others, and about yourself. And don't forget, every step you take brings you closer to your goals, whether it's one page, one chapter, or one book at a time. You're making progress. Keep going, keep reading, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like, share, and subscribe to Pro English Skills for more content that inspires and empowers. Until next time, happy reading.